Welcome to another edition of Access Higher Ed. I am your host, Christina Wynn, Director of Marketing and Student Recruitment at Berkshire Community College. And today we are in the kitchen here at Pittsfield Community Television, and we're cooking up some ricotta, which I know not too much about, but my guests are going to share that with me. So I'm joined by Emma, Lauri, and our esteemed colleague and faculty member, Audrey Sussman. I'm going to let them talk a little bit about themselves.
I'm Emma. This is my second semester at BCC in the Culinary Arts program. After this, I'm going to go for my Hospitality Associate's degree. And yeah, I'm really excited to be doing it.
Great. Thanks for being here, Lauri.
I'm Lauri, and this is also my second semester in the Culinary Arts program. I'm hoping to finish the certificate program and then also complete my Associates in Fine Arts so that I can combine both the art and the culinary components when I move forward.
Great. Great, thank you both. And Audrey.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here today. My name is Audrey Sussman, and I'm an instructor here in the culinary program, which is fabulous. I love it. So we are going to make ricotta cheese today. And we got some things started here. But we wanted to tell you, ricotta cheese is really easy to make, really easy.
I'm going to have to take your word for this. Because
Trust us.
When someone says they're making cheese, I'm baffled. Like, I just go to the store and I get it. It would never occur to me to actually go home and make cheese.
Ricotta cheese is so simple. 2 ingredients?
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. We start off with 2 ingredients. We start off with a half a gallon of milk. We start off with the juice of 1 lemon, or about 1/3 of a cup, right?
Yeah.
Lauri got started and mixed it up and set it in a pot. We use a candy thermometer, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But we bring it up to 175 degrees. And nice and slow, low temperature, let the thyme and low heat kind of do its magic. And the magic is that the curds and whey, or the milk, separates into curds and whey. Curds are the milk solids, and the whey is the liquid. Can we get a picture of this first pot?
This one's just at about 175.
Okay. So you can start to see that the milk is starting to separate. It doesn't look too attractive, really.
I'm not hungry.
Okay. But it will be delicious. So we bring it up to 175 degrees, and then we bring it very slow. Then we raise the temperature a little bit, and we bring it up to 205 degrees. And Emma, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, once you bring it up to 205, you turn it off and let it sit for 10 minutes. That way the curds have time to like solidify and like separate more. After that, you're going to drain it and
Are we ready to drain?
It hasn't been sitting for 10 minutes. It's been maybe 2 or 3.
Okay.
Neither one looks appetizing, so you promise at the end this is going to be appetizing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, while we're waiting for for those curds to solidify a little bit, let me tell you what happens with curds and whey is that you're going to start with a half a gallon of milk, or 8 cups of milk, and maybe you will realize 2 cups of ricotta cheese at the end. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's really a great deal of loss unless you use the whey. And there are some...
Tell me about using the whey, Audrey. Tell me
You're
about
doubting us. You really are doubting
us. You know
us.
what, I'm a little suspect, but you're going to take me through this, I have no doubt.
We are. So you can use the whey for a number of different things. You can use it instead of milk in soups, or instead of liquid in soups, and it gives it a nice flavor. You're also getting a lot of the nutrients from the milk, and then you're using it into the soup. You can use it, I believe we tried it in some bread baking, again, instead of water. It does create a dairy-based product, so you have to keep that in mind if you're serving somebody who is, dairy intolerant. The other thing is it can be put into smoothies in the morning. Now we're talking your language.
I like that idea.
Now
See, we talked before the show. I said that my experience with whey has been in a powder base. I've not used a liquid base, so I don't understand. Is there a taste difference? Is it really just the substance difference?
Well, this is perishable, and your powdered whey is not. So, but you can freeze this. When we froze off a couple of batches, right?
Yeah.
And we'll use it, what do you think, maybe for a soup later on?
Yeah, I have a frozen one in my fridge at home, actually, because I made it at my house.
Yeah. So do you think we're ready to drain this now?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay, want to bring the materials up front?
So we're draining the curds from the whey.
Correct. And we're using a strainer, which is underneath the cheesecloth.
Where does one buy a cheesecloth?
Oh, you buy cheesecloth in any supermarket,
Oh,
any
okay.
grocery store, or of course online. And you can see that the liquid has a slight yellowy kind of color. That's the whey. And we're getting nice curds out of this. There we go. And we need to let this sit for about 10 minutes. We could put this strainer over the pot so that it doesn't.
Oh yeah.
How's that? Don't worry about
Go ahead.
that. Okay. And
Should put
this
back up here.
is the liquid whey in here. We would cool this, put in the freezer, put in the fridge, and hold it for another use. And there are the cheese curds just draining off a little bit, and they'll be ready to go in just a few minutes.
Wow. So what does a whey actually, is there a taste to it? Is there a flavor to it?
I would say it has a dairy taste to it.
It does,
It has a bit of a sourness because we did add lemon.
Right.
And it's the lemon, the acid in the lemon, that creates the curdling effect that separates the curds from the whey.
I see.
So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today also is the different uses for ricotta cheese. It's not just lasagna. I mean, this would be great in a lasagna, right? Lauri, do you want to talk about some of the things we've looked at?
So one of the dishes we prepared with it was we made some bread and we cut it into almost like little crostinis.
Oh.
And then we combined the ricotta with some fresh herbs and then we spread it over top.
It's a nice appetizer.
Yeah. And then the other one we did, we actually sweetened the ricotta up a little bit and put some strawberries in it. So more of a fruity, sweet dessert type of ricotta.
Wow, so it's really something that has some flexibility when you use it. So
Oh, yeah.
you talked about something at probably the beginning of a meal and something that's more likely at the end of the meal. That's exciting. That's cool.
You can, think about putting it into an omelet, putting it into, of course, cannolis is the basic cheese in cannolis, is ricotta cheese, and of course with the herbs or as a savory.
So if you were going to be making this, let's just pretend you were going to use this in like a lasagna, for example. You mentioned that. Would this be enough? I'm assuming no, right? You'd have to make a lot more if you were going to make a tray of lasagna.
I mean, I personally would. I make big lasagnas, so and I love my ricotta, so I like to pile it on there.
Okay. All right. So you'd use
Yeah.
like a couple different.
Yeah, you'd probably do a
half
couple
gallons.
different batches, or if you had a big enough pot, you could do it all at once.
Okay.
But you need like a really big pot
A
for
really
that.
big
Yeah,
pot,
like
okay.
a stock pot.
All right, bigger than that one we have
So
here.
how do our curds look?
They look good to me. They're almost completely drained. You can see they're dried up different. They're definitely drying up, and they look more like the ricotta you'd buy in a store.
We like to stop it. The recipe says to let it drain for about 10 minutes. I've found through experience that about 8 minutes is a little bit better. There will be some liquid. It will continue to separate. But you can mix that back in. Otherwise, you get a very dry ricotta, almost like the very traditional Italian cheesecake, which this would be phenomenal. Can you imagine baking this into a cheesecake?
I can imagine you baking it. And trying it.
Well, so should we show some of the things, some of the finished products?
Yeah.
Okay. Charlotte, you want to get them? Sure. Let's start here. This is a sample of the ricotta when it's finished, and it's pretty creamy. It looks pretty good, we think.
Yeah.
That's plain. And
Look how fancy we are.
Lauri is bringing over, let's start with the savory. So, as Lauri told you, we use some sliced French bread. We mix the ricotta with a little bit of minced herbs, and it really can be any kind of herbs. We used rosemary,
Oregano and rosemary.
You could use thyme. You could use, in the summertime, you can use whatever is growing in your garden, of course, that would be great. We made the cheese a little bit more creamy by mixing in some olive oil into the cheese itself. Salt, because this is very bland without salt. We use kosher salt in class. I'll tell you about that in a second. And then we're just going to, we spread it on the crostini, topped it with a little bit of olive oil, and that's how we would serve it. Okay.
Looks great.
Yeah.
Now, do you, in this case, I think when I saw you cutting the bread before the show started, it wasn't toasted. Was that on purpose, or is that, would you prefer to have it toasted? Do you not? Does it not matter?
You can serve it either way. We've tried it both ways. We've tried it with the toasted bread and also without the toasted bread.
Yeah.
So it kind of would be on personal preference.
Got it. Cool. So you could really add this to crackers or any kind of.
Oh, yeah. I'll be honest with you. This is a great use. Toasting it is a great way to use up some stale bread. If it's not, if it's day-old bread, perfect, or freezer bread.
That's a good
Toast
point.
it up, and then you've got
No wasting.
No waste.
Excellent.
Right.
Looks delicious.
So I want to tell you a little bit about kosher salt, or salts in general. We use kosher salt in class as opposed to table salt. Table salt has iodine added to it, which was necessary and is a necessary nutrient. People weren't getting proper iodine requirements years and years ago. Today they are. So when you taste table salt, and we're going to do this in class in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a salt tasting.
Ooh.
You taste table salt with the iodine in it, and you realize that that tastes lousy. That's a nice way of putting it. So we use it to mop up oil spills.
Okay.
You also use salt to put out a little kitchen fire, small kitchen fire. Then, of course, you call security. But kosher salt is just salt. It has no additives in it. Kosher salt, sea salt, any of the other salts. And I like the taste of this much better. You'll see the difference, and you'll immediately stop using table salt.
Really?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to attend the salt off that you're having. The
You
taste
got it.
off. I want to see.
The other part is that kosher salt is very reasonably priced. You don't want to use sea salt when you're putting 2 or 3 tablespoons into a pot of water to boil pasta. That's an expensive addition. That's a lot of it's going to go down the drain. But kosher salt is this box is probably $2.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Good
So.
tip.
Okay. So to finish off the strawberries, we talked about just a little garnish on there, right?
A little bit of powdered sugar.
A little bit of powdered sugar, maybe a mint sprig. So
that
let
would
me
be
get you the
lovely.
powdered sugar.
Have you tasted this before you arrived today?
Yes, we
Yeah.
made some in class last
Made it
week.
yesterday.
Yesterday.
So when you make something in class, are you allowed to eat what you make, or does somebody else have to take that, or do you have to throw it? What's the protocol?
Okay, the course syllabus is very clear about that. We taste everything we make, and we analyze, we observe, we taste it, we critique it, we look at it for appearance, professional finishing, and then we taste, and then we take home. And only until everybody has tasted, and I give the word, we take home.
It looks beautiful.
So
Very
friends,
well done.
friends and family get to
benefit
see
from it.
our, yeah.
What's been your favorite meal or recipe that you've made in class so far?
This semester or in general?
In general.
In general. Ooh, that's hard. I really liked it when we made bread. I love making bread. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That sounds
That's
delicious.
my
How about you,
favorite.
Lori?
Actually, that's my favorite too.
Was
I
the bread?
really enjoyed making the bread.
And you took the bread home to your families,
Mhm.
and it was gone quickly. I
Yes. It
imagine.
was.
Great. Next time we'll make bread.
Okay.
Although bread takes a long time, right?
Well, it does, but we can show you. We'll show you how it's supposed to look after each step. How's that?
Okay. Yeah.
So-
That'd be great.
So we would serve this. We bought some novelty little martini glasses.
They're
You could put
beautiful.
it into a pretty dessert dish. You can set this up in advance for a dinner party. Just finish it off with the powdered sugar, maybe a mint sprig at the last minute, but everything else can be ready to go.
Wow.
So there's no fussing at the end. Bring it out. And
So it's sort of a set and forget kind of thing, right? You can
Exactly.
move on with other
Yeah.
things. That's great.
yeah.
So we have another guest with us today who's been sort of on the sidelines, right, for this show anyway. I'd like to introduce Professor of Hospitality and Culinary at Berkshire Community College, Carl Maya. I think Emma was telling me before the show, Carl, that her father had you and now she has you. So Carl's been with us a long time, one of our most dedicated faculty members, you know, mainstay at the college campus. So Carl, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. This is great. It's one of the joys I have of being the chairman of the Hospitality Culinary Arts Program is to be able to visit the cooking classes. And the success of our program really goes not with me, but my instructors. And I want to just say that Audrey has been a fabulous job with these students. She takes students. Emma and Lauri have a little experience, but we have students that have never been in the kitchen before. I'm always amazed when we get to the end of the semester how she's brought them up from level 0 to where they are, and then with people with experience, she takes them to the next level. And so that's a joy of me getting to watch her passion and love for what she does. It's wonderful.
So it's interesting you say that. You don't have to have experience in a kitchen to be able to come into the program that we have.
Yeah, one of the challenges we have is that when we see the class for the first time, we have students that have 0 experience and students, we have a student in the program right now that's been cooking for 20 years. So you try to get that balance. So we have to challenge the one that's been cooking for 20 years and bring the other person up to a level of being comfortable in what they're doing. And that's, again, goes back to the instructors. They do a great job in doing that. It's a tough balancing act to get that level up. But they do it. They do it every semester. Audrey's been doing it for years. And like I said, I get to boast about it being the chairman of how wonderful our program is, but it's really the instructors that make it my job easy. You know, we make the students sign releases because when they take these classes, I make sure they sign this release that we're not responsible for the extra 15 pounds that they put on.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to enter into the culinary program, but they were sort of short on time, I know that we have a couple different options that people could take in order to earn a credential from the college. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. First of all, let me say, anyone watching the show, I want them to spread the word. This is a great career
The
opportunity.
challenge to you folks at home.
Yes,
Tell
right.
people.
Tell people. Tell people to come up and experience this, whether they're doing it for a career or whether just to increase their knowledge of cooking so they can cook at home. You know, we live in a fast food society. Everybody runs out and buys dinner and takes it home. But I think once they really get into it, it's you know, they amaze themselves because they can do it. They can do it, and it's something that can be learned again by the instructors that have the passion for it, and it tastes so much better. It really does too. When you make something yourself, it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
I don't know. I kind of like it when somebody else makes it for me. I'm going to call you. You guys can come over.
So is the trade-off that somebody else cooks and you clean?
Yes.
Ah.
That's exactly how it works
Good
in my
deal.
house.
Good deal.
Well, I like that because cleaning up is a big part of it.
I promise that after this I'll help clean up. Fair enough. Yeah. So now both of you ladies had said that you're in the second semester of the culinary program, and you likely have another year or more that you're going to be with us here at the college. What are your plans after you graduate from BCC?
Well, I have a few options right now. I was considering going back to a 4-year school like Johnson & Wales or New England Culinary Institute up in Vermont. Or I might just go straight into working because I really love baking and that's what I plan on doing for the rest of my life. So.
And you have a little bit of experience in your family.
Yeah, my parents started a restaurant together, On Roll Cafe, and I do currently work there as the baker for the Pittsfield location.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. That's a shout out to one of our alums.
Yes,
Burrell.
and her father's plan is for her to take over the restaurant.
That's the end goal there. Is I take one and my sister take one.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Good planning, Dad. Good planning. Thank you. Lori.
Well, I'm still kind of thinking about it. I'm really interested in baking, so that's ultimately where I'd like to go. So I'm kind of deciding and weighing out my options as to where exactly would be a good fit. I think I might go more with the bread component and look into that part of a bakery. And
Now, you were telling me before the show started that your introduction to BCC and culinary was just a little bit different than maybe the way most people. You have a different background, right?
I do. I actually went and I got my master's degree in art therapy and counseling, and I was a therapist for almost 7 years, and then I decided that I wanted to change career paths. So I wanted to combine the artistic and the culinary components, so I decided to research programs, and I found the one at BCC and decided to go that route.
That's great. That's great. And so you're currently working at Canyon Ranch, you said. So you're going to be taking the culinary side and the artistic side and sort of finding ways to marry the two in your career.
Absolutely.
It's very cool. Great. Thank you both. And Audrey, Carl, tell us a little bit about yourselves. A little bit of background.
This is the second career for me, and the first career was down in New York City in the apparel industry. But this was a passion. It always was. And when I switched careers, I thought, what did I want to do? And the next thing, I knew that I was interested in food. I didn't want to own a restaurant, though. But I wound up, in 3 weeks' time, I had a license and a permit and a menu and a marketing plan, and I was selling product at the Great Barrington Farmers Market. And that lasted 11 years, and it was wonderful. And that's really how I wound up at BCC also, another story. I want to focus back on the cheese for a second.
Please
if I
do.
can. So this pot is now up to 225. The curds in the whey have really separated. What we would do now is let this rest for about 10 minutes just to put the finishing touch on it. And then we would drain it and strain it like we did with this one. This pot is ready to go into a mixing bowl and be used for whatever end purpose you might like. As we said before, we made a savory version of it with the minced herbs and olive oil, salt and pepper, or the sweetened version with some confectioner's sugar. We use confectioner's sugar for this, not granulated sugar. It melts better. It absorbs better. So that's those are the that's what the finished products look like.
Wow. Okay. And that didn't really take all that long. No. I mean, that was a matter of.
We've been yakking about a lot of other things.
Right. Well, that's par for the course for us, right, folks? Carl, you want to tell us a little bit about you and your background?
Oh my God.
We only have a few minutes left.
You never ask a professor to talk for 2 minutes.
That's a good point.
At least an hour. I had the opportunity when I was 15 to travel Europe, and I went to Portugal and Spain and France and Italy, and I was fascinated about the fact that I could check into a hotel room and I get up in the morning and went out to have breakfast, come back and the bed was made, and you get spoiled, you know. But I couldn't figure out how they operated the whole thing. It was just amazing to me. So when I came back home and I went back to school, I started to think about how crazy that was, you know, all the different foods that I tried and all the, you know, staying in the hotel. So that really was what got me started. Although I should say before that, my mother got me started because she worked part-time and would call me in the afternoon when I got home from school and tell me how to cook over the phone. So that was my introduction to cooking.
Smart mom.
Yeah, she was great. She was great. So as I went through that, I decided that I wanted to follow a career in that and had an opportunity to do a paid internship, so to speak. I worked for a summer at the Sheraton Boston Hotel, and they allowed me to go in every single department for that whole summer to find out which area I wanted to be, start in, which turned out to be food and beverage. But I worked the laundry room, I worked the front desk, I did the night audit. They really gave me a great opportunity. I'd like to have my students have that opportunity because it really, in one summer, you find out whether you like this business or you hate this business. So they did that for me, and so I went to Providence College. I graduated. That summer that I worked at the Sheraton Boston Hotel, the resident manager said, "Let me know when you graduate, and I'll hire you." And so I knew I had a job when I got out of college, and I called him up, and he said, I asked where he was, and he was the general manager of the Sheraton Waikiki in Honolulu, so I thought I was going to Honolulu. So I did call him, and his secretary answered the phone and said, he'll be right with you. And he got on the phone, and he said, "Oh my God, you graduated from college already, 4 years?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you remember what you promised me?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I got good news and bad news." He said, "Good news is I'll give you a job." He said, "The bad news is it's not in Hawaii." He got promoted to be vice president in charge of all Sheraton hotels. So in the 4 years that I went to college, he went from a resident manager to a general manager
Wow.
to vice president of all the Sheraton hotels. So that was pretty amazing. But he did give me a job.
Where did you wind up?
I ended up at the Sheraton Boston,
In
back at the
Boston.
Sheraton Boston. Yeah, yeah. they
Well,
had-
Boston's not too bad. I mean, that's not Hawaii.
No.
but-
Well, the doorman there, because I did 3 stints at the Sheraton Boston Hotel, the doorman always says, it's a good thing I got a revolving door here, because you keep coming around every few years.
Quite
So
literally.
back, you know. So that was the fun part of it. And then I moved on to be a food and beverage manager at Logan Airport for a food service company. And that was back in 1976 when Jimmy Carter was president, and they had a hiring freeze. And so all the places I wanted to go work, nobody could hire. But I answered a little ad in the paper that said cooking instructor for a hospitality program, Berkshire Community College. So I came down to interview, got the job, started in January 15th, 1978, and this is my 39th year.
What a career.
Yeah.
What a career.
been
Thank you
great.
for being here. Thank you, ladies, for joining us and showing us how to make ricotta cheese and the beautiful desserts and appetizers that you prepared for us. It's been great. Audrey, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the time out of your day. We are actually going to put these recipes up on the college's website. So if you go to berkshirecc.edu/culinary, culinary is with a C, you'll be able to get the great recipes that you saw made here this morning with us. So ladies, thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
having
We've
us.
appreciated it. We hope that you will come back again and help us make something else that's equally fabulous.
Great job, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, PCTV. Thank you, Miss Hall's School. And we'll be back with another edition shortly.